Hi everybody, so today we're going to be talking about prions. And what's a prion? A prion is an abnormally shaped protein that when it comes in contact with a normal protein, it changes the shape of that normal protein so that the normal protein then goes on to become a prion. Now that prion will go on to change the shape of another normally shaped protein and a cycle starts. So let's take a look at this. Let's say this is my normal protein right here. This is my normal protein. And then what I have is I have my abnormally shaped protein. So let's just say this is my prion right here. So this is a prion. And what's going to happen is when the prion comes in contact with my normal shaped protein, this normal shaped protein will then go on to become a prion. Now, if this comes in contact with a normal shaped protein, it's going to change the shape of this protein so it becomes a prion also. Okay? But we still have this prion here, so let's say this happens to come in contact with another normal shaped protein. It would change the shape of this normal shaped protein into a prion also. And then the cycle just keeps going on and the number of prions build up. So let's take a look at what happened with this. So if I have my brain, okay, so this is the brain, and I have my prions in here, and my prions are going around and changing the shape of proteins. Eventually what's going to happen is it is going to form a hole in the brain. These are microscopic holes. So I'm going to draw this one kind of big because I just drew so many prions. But I'm going to get microscopic holes in the brain. Now, when this happens, if you look at it under a microscope, the brain starts to look like a sponge. So they call this the spongiform appearance. Okay, it's spongiform. As this is happening, there's going to be inflammation in the brain. Inflammation of the brain is called encephalitis. Now, let's say that this was some type of animal like a cow instead of a human. And let's say that they grind the cow up and they go to serve it to people, and some of the prions get into the meat that people eat. Well, now it can go from the cow to a person. So it's transmissible. So prions actually cause a condition called transmissible spongiform encephalitis, or better known as TSE. Okay, so transmissible spongiform encephalitis. I got inflammation of the brain, I'm getting holes in the brain so it looks like a sponge. There's no reason why I made these dark and the other ones I didn't. Okay, and it's transmissible. So let's look at how our prions are formed. So proteins are basically made up of a chain of amino acids. It's called the primary structure. So here's an amino acid, 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 and here's an amino acid. This goes on a lot further than what we see right here. Now what happens is, once again, we call this the primary structure. What can happen now is this can do one of two different things. It can twist, so imagine it's twisting. It can twist and form a structure that looks like this. And we call this the alpha helix. The alpha helix. Okay? The other thing it can do is it can bend, and we can actually get amino acids lined up next to each other. So it looks something like this. Okay? We call this the beta pleated sheet. Okay, that's a beta pleated sheet. So they're lined up next to each other. This is lined up as if it's twisted. So now, let's take a look at what goes on in the brain. I'm going to erase this real quick. So in the brain, we have proteins called prion proteins. Now, they're not quite sure what the purpose of prion proteins are. Prion proteins may be there to protect the neurons, the nerves in the brain. Prion proteins may help with synapses and help with communication between nerves. Or prion proteins may also be responsible for allowing copper into the neuron. But here's what we do know about prion proteins, is if this is my prion protein here, they have alpha helixes in them when it's normal. Okay? So this is a normal prion protein. And what we call this for short is PRPC. When a prion comes in contact with this, so here's my prion again, and it comes in contact with this, what it will do is it will change these alpha helixes into a beta pleated sheet, or into beta pleated sheet. So this is going to go from here to, I'm just going to change it into a diamond just to be consistent with the prion I have here. All right, and now I'm going to get my beta pleated sheets in here. And so now this has become a prion. And so that's how the prions are formed. Now, this, we called it a PRPC when it's normal, it's a PRPC. When it becomes a prion, we are going to call this a PRPSC. The SC stands for scapies, because when it was first discovered, they found it in the brains of sheep that were scraping along fences. Okay, so that's how we get our prions. And from here, we will be looking at what happens once people get these conditions, or animals get these conditions. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please hit like.